What's up, everybody? Say what's up. Hey, so this is the We All We Got podcast. My name is John Henry, and so basically we're just gonna set the scene for you guys while we start off. So just picture this: you lived your whole life in a certain community. You used to see people that look like you. Maybe not just like surrounded, but at least you used to going out see people that look like you, not being the only person that stands out your whole life. And then boom, one day you decide I'm gonna do the responsible thing. I'm gonna go to college and get me an education. You know what I'm saying? Bring some bread home to my folks, and then so you did some research and you saw a little school that's good to you. You're like, all right, the brochures look good, nothing standing out. So you pick that institution for one reason or another. We'll get into that for each of us. You get there, and you're in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. You show up to your first class, for example. You're the only person that looks like yourself there, and you walk around campus and just nobody that looks like you. So basically, guys, that's going to be the premise of our podcast. Each of us is going to go through and tell you their story and basically how that stood out to them in PWI, which is a predominantly white institution. So I'm going to start off. My name is John Henry. I go by Johnny. I go by Jarwood. Call me what you want. I'm originally from Liberia and Sierra Leone in West Africa. I come by way of the Philadelphia area, now reside in the Midwest, St. Louis. I went to this PWI, I'll just drop the name here, Geneva College in Western Pennsylvania at the mere age of 17. And I was in for a shock. And then basically this episode, we're going to talk, each and every one of us, about what that initial shock looked like. So that's just my initial story. Hit it off to Ian.
Oh, me next?
Yeah, you next.
Ian, dude.
You're on my screen. So.
My name is Ian. I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I originally went to Geneva College to play football. I played for 2 years, and then I quit, focused on my major. I majored in computer science, and right now I'm a software engineer out in the Pittsburgh area.
From one bird to the next, player.
And I'm going to hand it off to Briscoe.
Hey. Is that me?
Yeah, you're next on my screen.
Hey, we got to continue that trend. Hey, Briscoe is what I go by. My first name is Rashad, originally from Baltimore, Maryland, now living in sunny Southwest Florida. As you'll find out, so I'll just kind of spoil it for you. We all went to the same PWI, went to Geneva College. Originally went up there to play football. Had the opportunity to play football my entire time up there. Met these great guys, some of them through football and some of them outside of football. Majored in a few things when I was there. Started off in engineering, switched that, tried to dabble in business a little bit before I settled in communication, where I did a lot of things related to design. And then I moved to Florida, where now I'm email marketing specialist for a company based out of New York, and I handle all of the marketing stuff for the Americas. So as John Henry said, just excited to kind of talk through some of the challenges we went through, some of the things that were shockers to us, and help somebody else that's going through some things that we went through and shed some light on things from a different perspective that obviously I was not prepared for when I first got there. So after that, I'm going to hand it over to my boy Chia.
Hey, let's go. Like Briscoe said, I go by Chia. My first name is John, last name Chia. Everybody calls me Chia because it's a lot easier. Originally from Nigeria, West Africa. I currently reside in Louisville, Kentucky. Been here for a minute since I graduated. I originally went to Geneva College to play soccer. That didn't work out. I was going to be an engineer as well. And as you'll learn on this podcast, it was a cultural experience for me. It was one of the first times I realized that I was Black. So that's one of the things going to a PWI did for me. But again, I got to bond with these fellas, and hopefully you'll tune in and hear a lot more about that. And I will hand it over to Jeff, who was my roommate in college.
Yes, sir. All right, so I'm Jeff Dillahay, also from the Philadelphia area, still live in the Philadelphia area. Like a game day. Like a few other people in here, I changed my major too. I started off in business, didn't really like it, came out, decided to switch it up. went the education route. Now I'm an elementary school teacher and a basketball coach. Um, and yeah, so we'll just talk about our experiences at Geneva, and hopefully y'all like what y'all hear. I'll pass it off to the last, and certainly not least,
Hey,
the boy.
The ball.
no, folks.
Hey, hey, they saved the dropout for last. Yay. You know what I'm saying? As they call me Thomas, but I go by Lay.
I don't think I've
I
ever
was
called you Lay.
nah. It's a name that I adopted after leaving Geneva. I was only there for a year. My major was psychology, but as we get into this podcast, you will find out why I didn't stay at Geneva. Tried to go back, didn't really work. So went on, lived life, played a little football outside of college too. Joined the military for a couple of years, got out. Now I'm a contractor for. I'm not going to say because of the things that will be said and done on this podcast. But yeah, PWI experience was definitely different coming from where I'm from. Literally, most of the schools I went to, I seen nothing but me, and getting to that area and being in that atmosphere was completely different. It was something that I can say we all needed and appreciated towards the end. You know, then getting back into like society is like, all right, what we went to school for kind of applies in everyday life, believe it or not. But as we go on, you'll get to know us more, and yeah, we're gonna we got something for you.
Fat.
Hey,
I think I want to start off by saying I think the realest thing that was said so far on this podcast in the first 9 minutes we've been on here, which will probably be the realest thing for the first like 5 episodes, was when Chia said it was when I realized I was black.
I just got a question. What did y'all think y'all were before?
But you know what I mean? Like that
The
joint, that's a
concept,
deep saying. That's a deep, like if you really think about that.
Bro.
Like I always
Nah,
knew I
I
was
hear you
black,
though.
but that's the first
Yeah.
time I really realized I was black. Like what
yeah.
that actually means.
I came from the largest black nation in the world. It's everywhere.
Straight from the motherland.
It's everywhere.
nah, for
I
real.
mean, there's something to become aware of that. I mean, you know what you are, but it's just something that, like, once you're put in an environment where it's not what everything that you see anymore, then you're like, oh shoot, it's real. So yeah.
And now before we get started, man, we all got to take cheers. Hey, every episode, man, we're gonna take cheers on whatever we drinking. If it's apple juice, if it's wine,
Hey,
if it's that,
hey.
I got that white hen dog. Whatever we sipping on, we finna take cheers right now. One
Angry
time.
Orchards. I don't know. Y'all can judge me.
It's Kool-Aid.
Hey, that Angry
Hey, pour
Orchard
it
be
up,
hitting.
fellas.
It do. A little
All
bit
right,
of this.
y'all.
Whew. What
It stings. It stings when it goes down.
You know,
I just realized everybody said their major except for me, so like I didn't get the memo. Just for the record.
I just did it because
So
you.
you
I
made
did.
your
I just did it. 'Cause
Oh, yeah, I started off as an engineer too, and then I ended up.
Yeah, I did. I really did.
Almost all of
Jeez.
us at some point tried that shit. We was like, yo, let's try this engineering thing out. Yeah, nope, not doing that. Not doing that.
Nah, but the crazy thing is like, cause like the grades, I had the grades to do that stuff, but dude, I hated calculus. And in my mind, the way they sold engineering to me was like, I'm gonna be doing calculus every day, and I'm like, I'm not doing this. I want to do this forever. So I
I'm
was
not
like,
gonna
Not
lie.
how my brain works.
I went into
Yeah.
I
Couldn't
went
do
into
it.
the mechanical engineering, and I thought it was going to be super dope, because one class I had, the project at the end of the year, we had to build like this bridge that lifted based on when a boat hit a sensor, and I was like, oh, this is going to be the coolest major for 4 years.
No.
And then I realized how much I just wasn't prepared for that. I realized
Yo,
by the
Brisker,
time I
you
got
might
halfway
not
through,
remember
it was
this
crazy.
actually. We actually took a C++ class together. Do you remember that?
I
We
do
were
not
all in
remember
there.
that.
We were all in there.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I
Yeah.
think that's
I just remember looking through halfway through the classes my freshman year that I took because I was an aspiring mechanical engineer and telling myself, yeah, I was not prepared for this. I was not prepared for this. But I think that some of the challenges and stuff that you get, like when you go to an institution, obviously when you go to higher education, you know, they're going to push you mentally and stuff. Obviously, it's supposed to be a challenge, but I think that's one of the challenges as well. On top of that, is you just realize how underprepared you are based on maybe how your high school experience was a little bit transitioning into college.
Yeah, no. I mean, I
Facts.
definitely feel you on that. But I know, Risco, since you're talking, Risco, how about you tell us your first Geneva experience? Like, what was it like when you popped in there?
We should not start with my first Geneva experience. That's what I'm saying. Hey, my Geneva experience was cool, man. I got up there, obviously for football camp with you and Ian, and I'll just tell a story how we met. So, they put when we came up there, they had such a large incoming freshman class that in the dorm that we stayed in, we were going to stay in at the time was called Memorial Hall. It was me and this guy named Will Ringer, and we were supposed to stay in the dorm room together. And we were staying in a converted computer lab because they had too many students for they just didn't have enough housing. So they
Forgot
converted a
about
computer
that.
lab, and it was just us in this room. Now, at the time, Jarwood, you were staying in Memorial, but Ian was staying in a house off campus,
Oh, by
but he
himself,
was
yeah.
over there by himself. So y'all just used to hang out. I don't even know how y'all
Nah,
met.
no, they brought him down to my room.
Oh, they brought him to your
Yeah,
room. All right. So
the coaches
all I
moved me
remember
in with
is
him and Corey.
I remember being in my room and me and Will just chilling in the room, getting to know this guy, and we just hear a knock on the door, boop boop boop, and then we hear feet, brrr, took off, and they did the joint for like 3 days. They knock on our door and just slide. Like I have no idea why they used to do it, but that's how I met these guys. And obviously after that, the four of us transitioned into living in a house on campus. So it was weird. One of the things that I will never forget, and this was one of the most amazing, honestly, experiences that a freshman could have, especially in a situation where when I went to Geneva and I had, did my visit and I hung around people that looked like me, saw a lot of people that didn't look like me. When I did my visit with a guy that his nickname's G. He was an upperclassman, had been there before. He was from Calvert, so he's from Maryland. And that's part of the reason why they put us together. But I did my visit during the spring semester, and I never went back to Geneva. I only went there that one time, never went back. And when my first day on campus, I walked into the field house, and G walked up to me out of nowhere. And he was like, "Hey, you decided to come, man. It's happy to have you. It's good to see you." It was like just the fact that he remembered me. I will never forget that. Like it stood out, And it was the first time that when I walked in, when my mom and my grandfather dropped me off, and they said, "All right, see ya." And I had to kind of figure it out on my own. Being in the field house, that was the first time I actually felt comfortable because I walked in. Obviously, it was a new situation. No one looks like me. I'm around a bunch. I'm 18-year-old kid around a bunch of grown men, guys like B Wills and stuff are walking around, big leads walking
Oh man,
around,
grown
but
man.
literally grown men. And I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, well, here goes nothing. And just him taking the time to try to make me feel a little comfortable. Hopefully, through our experience with this podcast, I can kind of help somebody else feel comfortable transitioning like we did. But that stood out to me in the beginning.
Yeah, I know community matters. I think if there's what you'll realize, which is why we're still friends to this day, still brothers, being in each other's weddings and stuff. Like community matters. So wherever you find yourself, try to find that community. It may not necessarily be like black folks or brothers, but you know, uh, community matters. So my first experience was like you mentioned. We showed up for football camp. I think it was like however early, a month or so early, you come to school. Uh, so he was down the hall in that computer lab, Briscoe was, and I was in this like 6-man room. It was a converted like lounge in a dorm, and so they just put some bunk beds in there. They're like, and our roommate, I don't know why this dude was there early, but he didn't play football. It was this like this different guy, nothing wrong with different people, but this
Listen,
dude
I ain't
was
got nothing to
hard to
do.
sleep. I don't know if you remember that, Ian. But yeah, it was this dude that was different. Like he would just sit on his computer all day. Like I think this was back in the day, like way, way before the time. And like I was just like, yo, this is what the next 4 years is about to be like. But good thing, I linked up with Briscoe and Ian and some other folks from the football team. But I was like, yeah, I looked at this dude and I looked at the experience with him just from the start. He was a cool dude, but just like it totally threw me off. He would walk around in his drawers, like early
No,
in the
that ain't
morning.
it.
Yeah, he really was. So that was rough. So but I'm glad I linked up with these
Pause.
guys, and that was just my introduction.
I will say this before the next person tells their introduction to Geneva. I've always said college is wild, bro. Like they'll take somebody from Baltimore, and they'll take someone from Houston, and they'll be like, "Oh, be friends, live in the same space now." Like,
Yeah.
how,
Right.
who signed off on this? Like, who signed off on this? You know what I mean? Like, not all of us have luxuries of going to school with friends. So you're just gonna put me randomly with some kid from Boise, Idaho, and tell us to figure it out? It's like
You
the
know what was
weirdest
weird
thing.
about this? They had us fill out some like before we even showed up on campus, some questionnaire about like to match you, and I'm like, this the best y'all could do?
He's like, "Oh, Jarwood likes
I
guys
do
walking
remember
around in
that.
their drawers. Let's go ahead and put that on there. I know he like that." Hey, Ian, what was your experience like, man? Let's start. Let's keep it on that '09
Oh
year.
man, mine was pretty similar to you guys, except I was up in that house by myself to start the school year, and everybody else that lived in that house was in the Geneva band. So we really had nothing in common.
They said Ian likes music. Put him in house with band guys. That's
Rap music.
how they get that.
No Nick Cannons though.
It
No
was kind of
Nick
crazy.
Cannon.
No Nick Cannons.
I was
Save
the
the
first one
last
in the house
dance.
for because I played football, so I was there like 2 or 3 weeks early, and I obviously took the biggest room because I didn't know like how stuff worked. And then when everybody else showed up, the upperclassmen were like, "Yeah, you got to go upstairs to where the bunks are. This is our room." And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't having it at first. I called my parents and they told me to just do what they say, and I just I just let it blow over. Went upstairs, and then I don't even remember how we like started living in Patterson House. Like, how did that happen?
You know,
Because
I think
eventually I just
after
moved up
football
there.
came finished because there was no room in Memorial, so they're
Yeah.
like, you were already there, so they just transferred us there. Yeah.
No, it came open. Remember, I think I don't I want to say Sway, but it might not have been Sway. Somebody had said something
I don't
about it
think we knew
opening up.
Sway then.
Someone said something about it opening up, and they asked all four of us if we wanted to do it, and we all were like, sure, why not?
Yeah, that
Speaking,
was that was probably
this
like one
guy
of the
gave us
biggest
numbers.
blessings of my life. Huh?
100%.
What'd you say, Jarwood?
I said, speaking of Sway, the Joshua Pilot, we got to have him on this podcast
Yeah, he
someday.
got to
Oh
be
yeah, we
Oh,
got
here.
to get
special
him on
guest.
here.
We
We
do
need
gotta
that
get
man
Slay up
special
here.
guest. We need that man special
But yeah,
guest.
moving in that house with you guys is probably the biggest blessing of my whole college experience because there was definitely gonna be problems in the house with the band kids. I don't know what they thought they were running, but I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Hey, Chia, what was it like your first time up
Yeah,
there,
I'm
man?
like
Your
legit trying
experience.
to remember like what it was like because I know I had to get to school early because like I was considered like international student, but I also
Now, don't
remember
do
like
this, B.
more.
You was international, B.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
international.
tell us about that transition, yo. Tell us about that transition.
I mean,
Hmm.
honestly, so y'all might not even know this, but like I went to like an elementary, like an American school in Nigeria for like elementary school. So I think that kind of helped with the culture shock because it wasn't that much because I was already exposed to like international like things. I knew what Thanksgiving was. That's not like a thing in Nigeria. Like you do with Halloween and all that. Like that's not really a thing. It's like an American curriculum. So that was not that shocking. But if it like that experience in itself, if I did not have those experiences, like I can tell you, it would have been completely different. But like I tell people, I went to like a boarding school, and like I had white teachers and stuff, so that kind of helped. I know that helped with the transition, but as a kid, you don't really know what's going on. You just they send you to school and they say do good, and I was like, I'll get good grades. So that like transition, one, I knew my parents were like, "Oh, this is going to be a good environment for him to like just focus on his books." That's what African parents like. They want you to focus on your books. So I was like, "Okay, I can do that." Um, but like getting to Geneva College, honestly, I remember like I didn't understand the protocol for like trying out for the soccer team. So it was like a random tryout. So I went out there and I forget the coach's name, but I did my thing. And I could tell he was not too like he was like, yeah, we'll talk to you later or some stuff. And I was like, the vibes weren't super great. And I was going
I'll
and I
remember
was
you.
going to
Yeah,
be
I'll remember
engineer
you.
at the same time too. So I was like, I don't know. It just didn't feel it just didn't something was off, but I was like, whatever. So that transition, that part, it was like a little weird. But I remember at least this lady, I forget her name, she tried to make me feel as comfortable as possible. Like she just tried to make me feel comfortable. And I think they also had like the Crossroads office, for, like international kids. So I will say that did help. That did help some. But again, it was just like it was still a shock. But honestly, I was like, I don't really got any option. I got to do this. That's just how I was raised. Like I really got
We all
no.
we got.
Yeah, I was like,
Say
I'm
it
not
again.
going to take a ticket back to Louisville and then go back to Nigeria. I was like, I'm just going to take 17 credits. That was another thing. I didn't understand the concept of credits at the beginning because I was like, 21 credit hours, I can do that shit, which I did the first time. And I actually did good because I didn't understand. I was like, oh, it was just a different. I didn't deal with credit hours, so I did like 21 credits and then 19, and then I was like, oh, this ain't normal, is it? Like you're not supposed to be taking 21 credits.
Call
So,
me 13 credits,
You
baby.
ain't even had time to sleep.
yeah, I understand.
21.
It's like, can you do something for me?
But yeah, that was mostly the transition for me. I'm really some stuff will probably come back to me, but I was like, it made, you know, it worked out. And I'm even trying to remember, like, honestly, how I met y'all. It was probably through Jarwood at some point.
Mhm.
It was definitely through Jarwood. I remember Briscoe was his
Yeah.
roommate at that point. I remember Jarwood was playing football. I was like, damn, I'm trying to learn about this football thing. And I think I was with Jarwood when he quit football. He was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this shit. He's like,
It's football thing.
he was like, I'm gonna just go do laundry, bro.
Why do they use their hands?
Oh,
These
wait,
niggas
man.
Like,
hit
nah.
Hold on, yo.
Yeah, I remember like my freshman year, I had like I lived in Pierce, so that was like different.
Where
That
I
like
was at,
whole, I think everybody else was like in Patterson, and I was just like in Pierce, which was
Mhm.
like a completely different experience, bro.
Yeah, it would be crazy if I lived like with other people than I live
Yeah,
with.
and honestly, now that I think about it, there might have been like one or two, maybe one other black person out there, bro. Like Seth, I don't know.
Except for Spencer.
Yeah, Seth or Spencer. That's
Oh
it.
yeah.
That's it.
But yeah. All right.
That's crazy. No, for
Yeah.
me, I was lucky. So, unlike you guys, I actually came up with people that I knew. So, Cam and Kenan, I literally knew since I was like 5 years old. So, I was like, all right, all else fails. Like, at least I know these two. So, we all go up there and like Philly, Jarwood knows. Like, Philly, depending where you're at, is pretty diverse. Like, I went to a school called Upper Marion. So, it wasn't the fact that it was a ton of white people there so much, but it was just like, it was different. Like, for example, I remember my first communications class that they make everybody take for whatever reason, even though I'm not trying to be a communications major. We had to give a speech. And the first speech, everyone spoke about the same thing. They're like, yo, we all go hunting. Like, I caught all these deer this weekend. Like, I was out on my lake house. I'm like, yo, what? Like, where am I at? Like, I don't relate to anybody. Like, so that was weird. And then, long story short, we came in, played basketball, Kenan played football. Me and Cam were the only two black people on the basketball team, except for one other person who was a senior, and I cannot remember his name. But it was just weird because, again, similar thing. Like, we couldn't really like relate to anybody because even though it was still Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh is like a whole other like country compared to Philly. So
He is, yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of specific examples, but even just like the whole Philly Pittsburgh thing, like I would tell people I'm from Philly, and like they wouldn't even know that Philly was in the same state as Pittsburgh. Like people were that like naive to the other side of the state, so it was just weird. But as far as me and y'all, I know I met Ian watching Loiter Squad. In where was we at? Not Pierce. It was the other one. Memorial, yeah. Memorial
Yeah.
Lounge. We were watching Loiter Squad.
Damn,
I'm trying to remember how I met. What'd you say?
That was the first time y'all met?
I think Cause
Mhm.
like it was weird. Like it was like certain semesters where y'all weren't here, but I was. Like
Yeah,
I'm trying to
we
remember
met.
like when we were all together at the same time.
There was a party that we went to when I first met you and Cam, but we didn't like talk at all or anything, except for at the
Yeah.
end of the party. Everybody was just we were just in the basement just freestyling for no reason.
Hell, I would say this is
I'm
a
like, I
segue.
see black people. I'm gonna just say what's up to them. Like, oh,
There's so much footage on somewhere on Jeff's old laptop of
oh
me.
yeah, I used to
just
record everything.
freestyling. Like,
I think Thomas
I
was there.
gotta find that laptop.
I think I remember meeting like everybody at like Memorial. Y'all used to watch like Boondocks, like Boondock
Mm-hmm.
Saints.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Cam brought up every season on DVD.
Not Boondock Saints. We watched the
Boondocks.
Boondocks.
The
The
Boondocks.
My
Boondocks.
bad. My bad.
Huey and
Huey and Riley.
Huey and Riley. Yeah. I remember that, and I was like, "What is going?" I'm like, "I don't know. This is cool." Then Cat started watching The Walking Dead at some point. I'm like, "All right, this
Yeah,
shit."
definitely did. I remember that.
But yeah, I think Boondocks
That's
was like
crazy.
the first time. The Boondocks. I was like, "Oh, that shit was like
Yeah, I'm
everybody." I
trying.
think it was like every Tuesday. We're about to watch this shit. Black people about to be in the lounge. Like,
Nah, we was watching that. We was watching the game. The game was like
Bro, we used to watch the
a
game
whole
every
event.
release day. Hey, I want to say I apologize, man. Someone randomly knocked on the door, and I don't get guests here. So when that person knocked on the door, I said, I thought someone was trying to rob me. I was scared.
Mm.
And I was like, I live in a nice neighborhood. It's gated. Why they trying? Why somebody messing with me, man? I know I ain't ordered nothing from Amazon. Like, what's going on? And there's a little kid fundraising. Little kid. It's funny. Like the school I coach at is one of the schools I coached at is a charter school. So obviously it has middle school and high school. So it's like one of the middle school kids at the school I coach at is walking around doing fundraising and stuff. So it was like cool. I was chopping up with him a little bit.
that's what's up. You give him any money?
I did. I bought one of his things, and I actually made a deal with him. I said, I'll buy one if you promise me that you'll gift one to somebody else. So I paid for 2.
Look at you. Telling me he has to gift it to a black kid. That's what you got to do.
That's going to a PWI.
Oh. Well, that's good.
All right.
If they're going to an HBCU, charge them double.
Hey yo,
All right, Thomas, let's hear your experience.
Dang, I miss Jeff John.
yo. My experience was completely fucking different because as soon as I got there, I got recruited. Like this was the first time recruit was ever in the process of me getting to Geneva. So, of course, we all meet, but the two, Briscoe and Jarwood, right? I just get there. Hey, young dude, come on, you gonna go with us tonight? I'm like, all right,
That's what happened.
okay.
That was during football training, right?
Bro,
This is
bro,
during
it was doing
camp.
football camp. I told this man, I said, bro, we're going down the hill.
We going down. You know, we about to go take a ride. Where we going? Don't worry about it. You gonna be all right. You go with us,
Hey, this punch buggy, my guy.
right? Imagine we have to be up for practice at fucking 6:00. These niggas is just wilding like that. But yeah, so I met them in football camp because that was the reason why I was supposed to be going to Geneva. I met Ian randomly because he was sitting in the lounge in Memorial. It was like, who the fuck is this other black dude? Like, oh shit, we get more black people.
He was posted up.
Yeah, it's
What is this
He
rare
walked in the
sighting?
lounge. He was like,
Chilling.
oh, wait, there's more.
right. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he had that basketball too, just up under his arm, chilling in the lounge. I'm like, all right, cool.
He was the first dude that went there for football and decided to play basketball.
Right.
This man said, "Yeah, I'm come here for football. I want nothing to do with it." So,
Shit. I don't remember when I met Chia. I met Chia on like some around the way. All black people was together.
I think we did something like every now and then we'd like eat dinner at like Alex's and then freestyle for some reason.
Yeah, like it's like the black people out.
Together. I don't know.
So y'all
Rap brought us together.
Yeah. we all we got, and that was literally like, yeah, you see other black people, you kind of like flop.
Because I remember Thomas be freestyling. He used to try and freestyle too, and Briscoe be cooking all of us.
Was trash. I
Yeah,
was
Hey,
garbage.
make sure you repeat the end of that again, though.
Nah, it's recorded. They got it.
But he just finishing people off. We walking in through the
Wait, what?
campus or whatnot.
He said,
Freestyle
"Pause."
more. He just,
Buddy
Pause
doing
that real
what?
quick. Pause.
It was horrible.
Well, restart the podcast. They said Buddy was doing what?
Edit that out.
what?
Uh,
Don't mind me. Y'all gonna see that I smoke. So this is
Yeah, hey, I feel like when Thomas smoke, he say the most out of pocket stuff.
It's like it's all
His
the
out of
bloopers.
pocket stuff be out of pocket to out of pocket stuff. Like out of pocket stuff be like, that's out of pocket. Like, Thomas be saying, bro.
Hey, look, that's what it took to get through the year I was at fucking Geneva. See, look, this is why I do what I do, because of the shit that I had to go through back then.
Oh dang.
Bro,
No,
honestly, I feel like honestly though, like for you walking into that situation with me and Jarwood is what you needed to be like, okay, maybe it's even not that bad. I can finish a semester. But like me, Jarwood, and Ian, I'm gonna tell you right now, if it wasn't for the Patterson house,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how that first year. I don't know how I would have survived.
Yeah. I think we got to explain to people what that house represented because it's unusual for freshmen to be able to live off of campus. It's like forbidden. It was at least
especially
at
at
that time.
Geneva.
So for the fact that we got to be together, like with just ourselves removed from, like, I mean, to be fair, the weirdness of the main campus, I think that just like
I'm
made
trying
us
to figure out
bond
how we
together
was
more.
removed from it. That shit was upstairs.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. At least we had our own little like getaway. Like, we had a room we could go to, just kind of like not to be exposed to all the weirdness. You know what I mean?
Yo,
And
remember
like,
when that one kid that lived upstaist wanted me to go watch a movie with him, but
Bro, I
just
was
me?
just gonna talk
Remember
about
when
that.
you
He acted
went?
like y'all didn't get along.
Yeah.
Specifically
But he
you.
was invited to watch a movie.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. It was a good movie.
And you
So
went.
Ian trying to sell out. He's like, remember when they was trying to invite me? Nah, I remember when you all went. Like, where Ian at? He come down the
He
steps.
gonna act all tough. They gave him popcorn too. He came down with some popcorn.
Man's ass
Yo,
After
what's
that, after that movie, Ian started walking around barefoot. I said, "Dang, getting lost, man.
Oh,
Getting lost."
Nah,
We lost
chill.
him.
You never see my toes out.
Ian, did y'all watch like Star Wars or something?
Yeah, I think it was a Star Wars movie. It was
I
fire,
remember he
though.
came down and
I mean,
told
I
me.
already seen it, but because I love Star Wars. But
Oh man.
so one thing, like, I guess I don't know if this is gonna be a segue, but I didn't realize this till like probably like when I was a senior, because I had a job this summer like at Geneva painting, and I remember the lady that was like in charge of us. Like, she made a comment about how weird Geneva kids were, and this was like a Caucasian lady. She was talking about these
I
RP
know
kids.
you're talking about.
And I was like, "What? You feel this way, man?" She's like, "These RP." So I knew someone. I was like, "Oh yeah." She's like, she knows this place is different, but it's just, and there's nothing against like homeschool like kids. I just don't know whether it was like just a level of exposure to life in general that like a lot of people just didn't have. I don't know.
And I'm about to throw a plug in real quick. Did you guys ever watch the movie Don't Worry, Darling? Did any
Nah.
of y'all watch that? So it's spoiler alert. I still encourage you guys to go watch it. It's a great movie. It's like they have the perfect life, but everyone every day does the same thing. The husbands all go to work in some mystery place the women can never find out. Their job is to take care of the house, make sure it's clean, cook. They give the husband amazing sex when they come in the house, but it's like they do the same thing literally every single day. And then people that come in and they try to challenge, like, what do the husbands do at work? And they just say, "Oh, working on the project," right? And they try to challenge, what are you doing? And they try to find out. They try to take a bus. The bus only takes them in a certain area. They can hang out with their friends, whatever. But any woman that tries to challenge it, they get basically exiled, like done. You know what I mean? There's no way out of this world. So spoiler alert. Essentially, what happens is there's a husband, and usually there's like a husband and a wife or a couple, and they're struggling. And the guy comes across this opportunity where it's like, look, if you pay X amount of money, we basically kidnap your wife, hook her up to this simulation, where in the simulation she's alive, but she only exists really in this created world. Where in this created world, she has the perfect life, but you have to leave to go to work, because when you leave to go to work, you're exiting the simulation, so you can actually work to afford to pay to keep her in the simulation. And husbands do it because they're desperate, because they want their lady to be happy, essentially. Right. So if you want to watch the movie, I just spoiled it for you, but it's an amazing movie. Go watch it. It's actually pretty good acting. I didn't think it was as horrible as some of the reviews said. But my point of bringing that up is
Bring
it
it around.
feels my point of bringing that up was
Shit sound like the Matrix. I was like, hold
no,
up.
it was actually really good. It was actually really good. And I'm glad you guys were like listening. I saw like your facial like inflections and stuff. If you watch that movie and then I relate it to our experience at Geneva, it was a very superficial place where it seemed like people went there to kind of try to live a certain lifestyle, but it never felt authentic. It felt a little forced. It felt a little weird. And we'll talk about this in other episodes, but as far as some things related to the religious aspect of it, or some things related to the social aspect of it, it just, a lot of things kind of felt more forced than natural. And I don't know, that you kind of said something about the people there being weird, and it reminded me of that movie, because in that space it was weird kind of what they were doing.
There's a reason we called it the bubble.
They call it
Before the COVID bubble.
Call that bit the firmament.
I just thought of something. I think during the course of this podcast, I might find myself playing devil's advocate for the good
Lord.
people of Geneva.
Oh,
All right, no, I will.
So let's just say that's gonna be my role for this podcast. All right. Because like, what if they looked at us as weird? I mean, we were black, so we were
They
definitely.
did look at us as weird.
where's
They
that
said,
I
"Wow,
line?
ain't
his
even
skin
seen
dirty."
nobody like us before.
His skin is dirty. You're like, what?
But no, I'm just saying, because like to them, what their life was normal, and then we come in and like, yo, what you mean you want to get married by this summer? Like,
Spring by spring.
Spring, but
I forgot about that.
we'll get into
To
that.
that point, though, Jarwood,
What's
like,
that?
to your last point about the whole ring by spring thing, like, I remember people hitting up Justine, like, yo, were y'all still together? Like, just because we didn't get married by, like, our senior year. I'm like, yo, like, we are 21. Like,
You do. So.
and we live? Like,
So
but yeah, it was
crazy.
just weird, bro.
Yeah, no, it's
Weird.
We'll have a whole episode.
Very
for
weird
spring.
stigmas.
yeah.
That's a whole
Spring
other
by
thing,
spring
though,
is
yeah.
a whole like different episode.
That's a whole other thing.
And I think it's worth it to say like Geneva was not just the PWI; it was a religious Reformed Presbyterian, which is like OD religious institution. So we didn't just get one whammy; we got double whammy. So that's yeah. So we can get into all of that in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was experience.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, like if I'm going to play devil's advocate, because Jarwood, I know I'm gonna play devil's advocate with you a lot during this series. I do feel as though for me to make the transitions and growth that I made as a man, I needed that culture shock to a certain extent. Like I couldn't continue. That's part of the reason why I moved to Florida. Like originally being from Baltimore, obviously, some of the people I hung out with, some of the places I went, some of the things I did, I knew wasn't conducive to growth, and I needed to make myself uncomfortable and be in a place that, obviously, I chose Florida for specific reasons. Okay, we don't have state income tax. It's sunny. Okay, there's a beach. I can go to the pool in March. Okay, you guys can't do that. I can go to the pool in March. I get it, right? But there's things. There are things that I learned at Geneva, that just how to network and connect and work with people in general that don't look like me. I do think I did learn that at Geneva, because if had I gone to a HBCU, how do I strike up conversation with someone that doesn't look like me, who's older than me, and is in a position of authority?
You just been strolling your way through life.
I tried to figure it out, but some of those lessons I would have had to learn eventually. And I think it's better that I learned them as an 18, 19, 20-year-old, as opposed to trying to figure it out now in my 30s.
Yeah.
Which, just for the podcast, I want to point out, we're all in our 30s, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna be the angry black person, so because Geneva was different. I mean, it still had its advantages and whatnot, but like John said, it was very different. and sort of kind of strict and somewhat forced upon you in certain ways. But I can say that it did give me a different aspect on life and whatnot when I had to transition back into the real world. Because I mean, we were adults, but we weren't adults fully yet, and I had to grow up real quick because of a situation we'll get into later on down the road. But I feel as though the experiences and bonds and whatnot that were created helped me along the way, even though I wasn't there that long. But of course, we're here now, so I did something right.
Hey, Thomas, you was there at the right time, though. I will say, if you
You
were there,
were.
you that was a good year. You were
Was a
there
good
for a
year.
good
That was
year.
It
one of
was
the
a
best
good year.
years.
I
For real,
was,
for
man.
real.
That was a good year, my guy.
Henry was the most
Nah,
popular.
I feel like y'all had fun the year after I left. Like when I came back for homecoming, it was
What year was your freshman year?
Yeah,
2011.
what
uh
year was that?
2011.
That was a
Okay.
lit year.
It was
That was
I
my
oh
sophomore year.
Hey,
Yeah.
that was the me and Leash year. That was a good year, bro.
I feel like
It
that was the
was
only year y'all did stuff like outside of like campus as far as us going to fucking laser tag and the other shit that we
Oh
did.
yeah, I do remember laser tag.
I don't
Trapped
remember
in
laser
that building
tag.
for 7,
Yo,
8 hours.
was you the president of the BSO in like
I
sophomore year?
forgot
Did you
about
get
that.
that
Yeah.
I was president of the Black Student
Alex Mack
Organization.
was with us.
Now I remember you trying to get stuff like that, the laser tag and all that
I
stuff.
didn't get the laser tag stuff done, but I did do like a art event. I did the speed dating stuff. Bro, speed
Yeah.
dating was a hit. And I did that for 2
It
years in a
was.
row.
I do remember
And
that
that.
when I
was
say,
yeah.
It
I'm
was
telling
it
y'all,
was kind of lit.
the best,
It was.
the craziest thing about it, and the one thing that I love the most. So what we're talking about is I became president of what was called the Black Student Organization. I changed the name after 1 year to the Multicultural Student Union because I wanted to be a little bit more inclusive. And my first year in the BSO, I hadn't been there for 5 minutes. Right, still wet behind the ears. I said, I'm going to throw an event. I said, how do I throw events? And they said, you just throw it. And I said, okay, you don't got to tell me twice. So it's Valentine's Day, and I know that we've been talking about Ring by Spring. We'll probably get into that in the next episode. But I knew spring was coming up, and there was a lot of rings that weren't around yet. So I said, I'm gonna help these people get their ring before spring. So I threw an unprecedented event called speed dating. Obviously, for those that know what it is, I threw that on campus in one of the cafeterias. I booked it out, decorated the whole thing in red, pink streamers, balloons, confetti, all that stuff. And I did signups, and I did 10 guys, 10 girls, and I ran speed dating. But it was cool because they had to like grade each other, and whoever got the highest rating at the end, they got an award. But it was crazy because you got to see some people really take it seriously. Like they came dressed up in their freshest outfits, whatever that
They didn't want
means.
that lowest rating. Imagine getting that
Yeah.
lowest rating.
They did get the lowest rating. But it was crazy, man. And a lot of people ask me, like, how did you pull that off? And it's just sometimes you just got to do it. Sometimes I think
Read the room.
that's a good thing about having innocence is you don't know what you should or shouldn't do, and you don't know what you don't know. I had no idea that doing that was taboo. So I just did it. I said, this is what we're doing. And I got a lot of pushback after, because I think people didn't really think it was going to happen until the flyers came out. And I was like, the save the dates were happening. And they're like, oh, this is really happening. And then
So save
afterwards,
the dates.
yeah, a lot of people started pushing back on it. They were like, "Man, I can't believe you're really doing this." But it was such a success that the following year I opened it up to 15 guys, 15 girls, and I had a huge wait list on both sides. So
That's what's up.
we'll get
Do
into
you
that.
remember when? Because I worked at the multicultural like center because I'm multicultural. But do you remember when we had the like fashion show?
Yes, I do, and I
That was
look
our
at those
freshman year,
pictures.
right?
I look at
Yeah,
the I look at those pictures like once every five
I
months.
they
still
I
come
know
up
got
it's
on
a
the
those.
random
timeline.
number. Yeah, it's like 2 to 3 times a year those pictures come up, and I
And
just
like
look at
you
myself like,
said,
what am
like
I
we
doing?
didn't know no better. Like I don't know anybody did like a fashion show after that. Like that
Hey,
wasn't
they
even
took
a
us
thing.
they took us to Macy's and let us pick our clothes out.
They
And
really
we
I
got to
did. I
remember
pick
that.
out
remember
we got
that.
to pick out what we wanted. I know it was sophomore year because Jeff was there,
Yeah,
because
I was
me
there
and
for
Lisa
that.
all of them were there. So then afterwards, we had to return our clothes to Macy's. We couldn't have it messed up. But they told us, they said, hey, if you want it, we'll give it to you for 40% off.
I was like,
Ooh,
I'm
I was
good.
trying
Boy,
to
I
I
get
can't
blew
them
my
afford it.
whole
jackets.
refund
Jackets
check.
tough.
I blew my whole refund check. I had no guidance.
That's funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I just pulled up the 2021 like stats of the college we attended. population. So there was a total of 1,315 students. Do you want to guess how many black students were in that number?
17.
63.
21.
15.
Do some of it. No,
I'm
it was
gonna
only
say
100.
Realistic.
at
It
least.
probably realistically was like 150.
Literally
Yeah, I was gonna
100.
say at least 100. Oh, 100
100.
exactly.
Even?
There was out of 1,300 students, there was
What
100
percentage
black.
is that?
There
They
was
rounded
41
that up. There was not
Hispanic,
100 black. They rounded that up.
They had to.
and then 52 unknown. So we're just gonna we can add that.
I know. What does that
Oh,
mean?
no.
They're like, I don't know what I am. I'm just here.
What
Yo,
is that
that's
statistic?
Definitely a Martian. I know that.
I pulled it up on unistats.com.
That's crazy.
That is kind of nuts. So 1% of the population?
Damn near.
Less than
I'm telling
10.
y'all, my freshman year we were 0.8% of the population. So
yeah.
that's growth, baby.
Nice.
That's growth.
So, like, have you
From
guys ever
0.8
been
to
in a
1.
place? Because you know,
Wow.
I live in Missouri, right? Have you ever been in a place where it's just like all white people and then like black people see each other and it's just like that nod?
Nah, I got a story for y'all.
One middle school
So-
year, I had that.
So this one time, Jarvis was dating this girl that lived in Lisbon, Ohio, and I was asking
Shout out
him
to
like
her.
stuff to do out there. So the girl I was dating at the time, we went out there and did like a bike ride, but they was having a fair, bro. I was like, she was like, I want to go to the fair. I want to do the whatever. I don't know what movies you've seen, but like she wanted to
Yo,
go to the
I'm
fair.
trying to stop laughing.
And then, yo,
All these
like, I'm
flags.
walking through this fair, and that's when I'm like, oh, like every time I'm like, oh, and then after like an hour there, this one random black dude sees me, and he comes up to me. I still don't know who this dude is, and he dabs me. He's like, yo, bro, I see you. And then she asked me like, do you know him? And I'm like, no, I don't know him, bro. We just out here in Lisbon, Ohio.
That man
You're
looked
like
at you,
5.
Chia. That man looked at you, was like,
Get out.
It was like at that fair, there were probably like 5,000 people, maybe 30 black people. But you know, at the time, I'm not thinking about that. Like, I'm just like, oh, you know,
Having the time of your life.
Every
You know,
single
Barack
time
Obama was
I
president.
thought about it.
it's a good time. We can just, you know, we living out here.
I feel
Racism
like,
is ended. I was just like, you know, go to the fair.
I feel like Ian's stressing the hell out watching this 76ers game right now.
Because they're literally playing overly physical with Embiid. Like,
I couldn't
They're
even
literally-
put it on because I knew I'd be snapping.
Yeah.
they're trying to like injure him. Like, it's crazy.
I'm about to see what y'all
Yeah,
talking
it's
about.
tied right now.
I decided not to.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, y'all got a snippet of what this podcast is going to be about.
It's called the pilot, baby.
Yeah. So we got basically. You can kind of tell why it's named
Hey.
that because in the land of whiteness, we were all
Bro, I don't know if you can say that, bro.
I don't know if you can say that.
Nah, freedom of speech. Nah, say that shit.
Bro, we was monetized for the first 47 minutes and 30 seconds, man.
Hey, we
That whole
can't.
shit away, man.
We're sponsored something like that.
I took it back.
Nah, say that shit.
No,
We just lost like 4
we was in the
sponsors.
Caucasus Mountains of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we were.
We was in a city called Beaver Falls, my guy. Last time I checked, Beavers was
Downtown
brown. I
Beaver
ain't
Falls
seen
is
not a
black
brown
people.
motherfucker up there.
Yeah,
Right?
Beaver Falls was the weirdest place. One of the weirdest
Ever.
places I ever been. Like the top of the
Ever.
hill,
On
like,
the hill.
like decent, but then down the hill was
Oh my gosh.
That's hey, that's where the niggas was at. That's where the niggas
I
was
like,
Yeah.
I like down. I like down.
Yeah.
Hey, remember Big used to go to the chop shop? Shout out my boy Marco. You're
The chop
he used to go to the chop shop all the way in
yeah.
New
So
Brighton.
how
He'd go
about
that
my
joint to the
boy out
city.
here is Marco's half brother. Like my brother's roommate, his cousin. I'm not gonna throw no names out there, but he's like in my friend circle out here, and it's Marco's half brother.
That's crazy.
For real, that's
That's
crazy.
wild.
And it's such a
Hey.
small world.
Shout out Marco. He had a PlayStation inside the barbershop. That's the
He
only
did,
time
he
I ever
did.
played NCAA 14 before it got discontinued. That's the one year I didn't buy it. I got 2013, didn't buy 14. That's the only spot I ever played it at.
Shout out to Mark.
Barber.
He did. He used to hook us. There's the only black barber we could find.
Bro, I
Mhm.
used to, and we used to take our time and walk down that hill gingerly to go get our haircut.
Man, the worst part would be walking back up the hill, man.
But that was back when I used to wear mohawks too.
I
Yeah,
forgot
that was
about that.
wild, man. Y'all were on some different wearing those mohawks with the football team.
I did have a mohawk, yo.
I was not cut my hair in no
Jarwood had a
mohawk.
mohawk too.
Bro, me and Jarwood had the same mohawk,
Yeah, y'all
bro.
both had the mohawks. I was like, y'all
weak.
really buying into this.
Hey, man.
Wow.
That shit was gone before I got here.
Weak.
Hey,
Man's
but
got the
that
talent.
was after though. That was after I went through the braid phase. I was trying to be like Ian, man.
Nah,
Yeah,
I think
still
I
had
had the
my
mohawk,
braids.
and then you cut yours off. You cut your braids off into that, right?
Yeah, I did. I cut the braids off and went to the it. By the way, that salon that we used to go to before we found Marco, where we used to go to get where I used to get my braids done at.
Yeah,
Very, 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 very sketchy.
bro.
Mm.
Then she used to sell the knockoff Jordans.
I'm not going to talk. I didn't want to bring that up, but yeah, she did.
You
And
can edit that out.
I
edit
think
that
I
out.
paid for half of the braids that I should have got because it was like pushing her daughter on me, and I didn't wanted nothing to do with her daughter, But I had to get my hair braided for free, so it worked out.
Yo,
I
you
didn't even
remember the
know about all
peach?
that.
You remember the peach?
Yeah, I remember the peach. Are you serious? Yes. But we're not getting into that.
Alright, never mind.
We ain't getting into none of that.
All right.
That's for another episode.
That's before my time.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good thing, my guy. Trust me. Trust me.
I know
Nah,
nothing
but that
else.
paved the way for that year Thomas came, though.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Peach. You know what the unique thing about I don't want to get into this because I'm pretty sure this will come up in another podcast where we'll focus on this. But the unique thing about Thomas's year was when Thomas first came there, Jarwood, he met you and I, and we said we're going to take you under our wing and we're just going to take you down to the city. And we took Thomas downtown to hang with some friends. And that only lasted for about 6 hours before we randomly met new friends. And because those new friends came over the house of the current friends, so we left with the new friends and dropped the old friends and like never talked to the old friends again. And the new friends were awesome. The next thing you know, we're staying in the middle of the hood. We're going to Orms to try to get donuts at 7 a.m. because they stopped selling them at 9:30 because they were sold out.
Yeah, that was we got breakfast made.
Husky
Like,
ass
what?
donuts.
Well, that donut was the
Jones was
size of like a
crazy.
bicep, bro.
Holy
Them joints
boy.
like, oh, we open up at 6,
Crazy.
sold out by 7:45. It's like,
I was just a mission
forgot
man
about orange.
my freshman year. First
this man Thomas came and was like, yo, if this is what college is like, I can get used to this. This is right.
I almost ended up with a kid because of this shit.
Literally.
Yeah. Save that for another time. I was robbed. Should have never gave that bitch money.
Save it, Thomas. We'll bring that episode up, bro.
We'll bring that's a whole different.
Bro, I feel like that got to be the next episode now, man. Because I ain't know
Yeah,
you
that gotta
get
be
a
next now.
I ain't know you get a John money, but I'm trying to hear that.
I feel like I need the full story. I'm saying I haven't heard it, but I
You
want
know
to
what I'm
hear
saying?
Man, that was
Every
three
time
years.
every time I thought I heard 100% of the story, I found out I really know like 70%.
Something else, yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, like.
Hey, bro.
Hey, should we invite a special guest?
Nah, fuck that hoe.
And then we talking about the baby. We gonna invite the baby, man.
Hey, if I'm not mistaken, that little nigga probably still got my last name. I ain't even gonna hold you.
Well, we invite him on here. See what's up.
That's just son.
That's
I said, all right.
I mean, yeah, but nah.
You signed the birth certificate.
I did, and
We giving
got
away
the
too
DNA.
much fun.
Yeah. No, we giving it away, man. We giving it away. Hey, we're gonna have a lot of special guests though, man. We're gonna try to get our boy Sway on here.
Yeah.
We'll try to get a bunch of guys on here. Some men, some women that went to school with us at the PWI. Some that look like us, some that don't look like us. They all kind of shaped our experience. They shaped our reality when we were there. We're not gonna have no professors on here though, because I don't really care about none of them. Even though some of them are cool, and I still am friends with some of them on Facebook. I ain't gonna have none of them on here. But we'll try to get some people on here to share some of their insights, what their experience was like when they met us, what it was like, getting to know people that don't look like us or people that did look like us that came from a younger generation and kind of how we influenced them. So it's going to be action packed, man. Obviously, we're 6 guys that's just starting out a podcast. So we got a lot to learn and we're going to be figuring some stuff out. But, we appreciate you guys for joining in and just taking a chance with us and listening to our journey. So hopefully it's something that you pick up from this that you feel is pretty valuable.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, also
Yeah.
moving forward, starting next week, we're gonna do song of the week. We ain't finna get into it right now, but we're gonna spin the wheel, and whoever it land on, they gotta give us whatever song they listen to. And if these guys don't want to do it, then I'm gonna give y'all the song because I'm always hip with the music.
All right, we'll do song of the week or like fact or like you know what I'm saying top event of the week or something like that you came
Nah,
across.
babe, we doing song of the week. Man. I don't care about your fact. Cross that
We
fact.
we got to do research so nobody sues us and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Nah,
I'm
just
just
come
starting off. You know what I'm saying? I'm just
come with
starting
the
off. That
song.
college education just starting to pay off.
Yeah, for real, it's like 10 years.
And I still got them loans, yo.
Shit. Paid 10 grand and only spent 6 months of that motherfucker. Ain't that some shit?
Damn, 10 grand for 6 months.
Whew.
I'm in the wrong business. I might start a college.
Right.
Yeah, there's money in there.
Kanye was on to something. LeBron was on to something.
LeBron started a school, not a college.
So did Kanye.
Hey, they take tuition. Schools take tuition though. They take tuition.
Yeah.
Boy.
Fair.
Apparently, Kanye was only feeding those kids sushi.
I saw that.
Hey, sushi fire though.
Sushi is fire, but I don't want it
It's
every
fire.
day.
Nah,
Don't get that mercury poisoning.
They be
That's
like,
for
what we
sure.
got on
Right?
Monday? California rolls. What we got on Tuesday? California rolls. What we got on Wednesday? Shrimp tempura. Oh shit. What about Thursday? California rolls.
Oh,
That's
no
crazy,
miso
yo.
soup, nothing. Just straight sushi.
Well, what about Friday? Just sake. It was like, oh, it's the weekend. Yes. Just turn it up. Like, oh, yeah, that's what we're doing.
That was a good touch. I see
But
they
alright,
pushing.
yo.
They pushing.
We appreciate the introduction. Thanks for letting us into your house, into your ears. Pause.
Pause.
Yo, come on.
Hey yo.
You know what's crazy? This man said pause as soon as he said it, like he knew it was sus.
No. Like as it was, I feel like you know how the thought forms in your head and then it comes out.
Pause.
That was gay, granddad.
All right, somebody else close us out.
Hey, Ian,
What?
it's on you, player.
I'm not closing it.
What? Alright, since don't nobody else want to take us out, we're gonna get with y'all next week. Make sure y'all stay tuned and whatever streaming. Don't get us sued with that shit. But you know what I'm saying? Share the video, like, and all that good stuff. And we'll
Like,
get at
comment,
y'all.
subscribe, baby.
Yeah, what Scope said.
Go
We out.
birds.
Pilot about
birds.
to land this plane. See y'all next week. Peace.
Yeah.
1, 2,